Defense ministers for the 29 NATO countries are gathering this week in Brussels. They're expected to focus on defense spending and deterrence of Russian aggression in Eastern Europe. Earlier today, I spoke to the U.S. ambassador to NATO from Brussels about President Trump's approach to the alliance. After our interview, she stepped in hot water of her own making, commenting that the U.S. could, quote, take out Russian missiles for violating an arms control treaty. Hutchison has since walked back, the ambassador has since walked back her comments on Twitter, but not before the Russian Foreign Ministry called them destructive and aggressive. Here is our interview with the ambassador from earlier today. Hi, Ambassador Hutchison. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hi, Veshi. I'm so glad to be with you.
I wanted to start off by asking you for the American perspective on the alliance, because your president, Donald Trump, of course, has made mention of NATO many times during his time in office. And during that time, he's called the alliance such things as obsolete, and he's even suggested that the U.S. wouldn't uphold Article 5. Can you describe for me your perspective and the U.S. perspective on NATO?
Oh, absolutely. America is committed to this alliance. We're going to have almost 70 years in it next year. And it is something that we know is so important for our transatlantic bond. Canada and the United States are the transatlantic part of that, and we are so glad to be a part of this wonderful alliance with our great ally, Canada, and America is committed. And I think everyone in the administration, including President Trump, has said that we are committed to Article 5 and all of the support that we give to our allies and have had in return.
How do your allies rectify what you just said with the language coming from the president around, for example, NATO being obsolete, or the threats around Article 5?
Well, our allies saw the president and heard his commitment to Article 5 and to NATO. Yes, there are disagreements. The president has stood firm for the 2% that all allies have committed to spend for their own defense. And that is something that started long before President Trump, and he has made it a point, though, to say to our allies, we want this to be a full alliance that is ready to deter any adversary that any of us would face. And that means we all have to step up to the plate. America is increasing our defense spending. Our allies are also increasing defense spending, and the president is continuing to press for more, which is the right thing to do, and our allies agree with that. So I think our allies know that America is here, we are committed, we are the leader of this alliance, and we will continue to be.
Let me ask you, Ambassador, about that 2% target in the Canadian context. Canada is spending more on defense, has made promises to spend more, but the government has admitted we will not hit that 2% target. Is Canada doing enough?
Of course, all of us are trying to do more, but Canada is doing so many things in our alliance that are very important. They are stepping up in the enhanced forward presence that we put in Europe when Russia invaded Crimea in 2014. They are the leader in Latvia, and it's a very important mission for NATO to show that this alliance is going to stand firm against Russian malign influence. Canada is one of those leaders. In addition, Canada has just recently stepped up for our most important new mission, which is to help stabilize the Iraqi military and their police through advising and training in Iraq after ISIS is defeated. This is something that many of us have done in the de-ISIS coalition, and we are now going to have a renewal of that when invited by the Iraqi government to help train and advise the police force and their armed services on how to put together a working, stable system in Iraq so that ISIS can never rise again. And Canada is the lead and the commander of that new mission when it comes to fruition.
If I'm reading between the lines, Ambassador, is it your perspective that there are other ways to determine a country's contribution to NATO other than that 2% target?
Well, the 2% target is important for the overall alliance common defense. There's no question we need the 2%. That was determined back before 2014 even, if we are going to have a significant deterrence against Russia. Russia has a massive military. We need to be able, as an alliance, to have the defense to deter that massive military. And to do that, it was determined by our heads of state that 2% cash is the right number. But it's not the only contribution, of course. The contribution of forces, of troops, of helping in the funding of the alliance's missions, such as Iraq, Afghanistan, enhanced forward presence, all of which our allies are doing, and every one is contributing to the common funding. So there are many ways to look at contributions. Cash is very important for the overall good, and most certainly contributing to our missions, as Canada is doing in a big way, is a major contribution.
Would you admit, Ambassador, that that is a very different line than the President has delivered?
The President has acknowledged the contributions of our allies and is seeking more in the cash contributions area. And I think that our allies know that one thing is not more important than the other parts of contribution. That's what makes a strong alliance. We have many who contribute troops to give to our missions, contribute cash as well to the common funding, and contribute in defense spending for their own national defense. I think the President is saying that, and most certainly all of our allies are stepping up more. Before 2 years ago, some of our allies were decreasing defense spending. That is no longer the case. Every ally is stepping up to increase defense spending now, and that is an important step forward, and we're going to do more, and we've all committed to do more.
There's another target attached to defense spending, that 20% of spending be on investments in major new equipment. If the Prime Minister's if his planned spending goes ahead, Canada will exceed this goal, but there are definite concerns that if the money doesn't roll out sooner rather than later, we won't be able to participate in or lead NATO missions using outdated equipment like our CF-18s. Do you share the concerns that Canada isn't replacing military equipment fast enough?
Well, I think your point, Vashi, is a good one, and that is the requirement of 20% of our spending be on upgrading equipment and making sure that we have the most modern technology, because, of course, that is important for a deterrence. And I know that when Canada decided to take the mission in Iraq, that they would fulfill the need of their own troops to have the equipment needed to do the job, and to also strive for their 20% capability target, which they have agreed to do.
Before I let you go, I do have to ask you about an issue of the day. Macedonia's referendum on Sunday could have been the beginning of the road to joining NATO for that country, but turnout was so low that the results are being called into question. Is this a setback for NATO and a victory for Putin?
I think that the Macedonia vote, that was over 90% of the people who voted, was a great success. And I think that, of course, we want to engage with the people of Macedonia as well as the parliament. They will make their decisions about whether they want to join NATO. We have committed to accept them if they do come forward. I think they will. I think the enthusiasm is high, and I think they will be our 30th member in the near future, but it is a decision that the people of Macedonia will make. And I'm proud that they voted in such a strong way with 90%, actually more than 90%. So I think that this will come together. I'm very hopeful, and I think they will be a great member of NATO in the future.
I have to ask, though, Ambassador, is it really an excellent showing? I understand that they voted 90%, but the turnout was abysmally low.
Well, 38% was not, of course, 90% turnout, But there are many factors in that, and the fact that the people who came out to vote were 90% positive, I think, was a good sign.
All right, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, Ambassador Hutchison.
Thank you, Vashi. Good to be with you, and I hope I'll see you again soon.